Is Daniel Ricciardo's future at McLaren in jeopardy? Formula One is as dynamic as it gets. Not only are the cars on the track speeding up at blinding speeds, but conditions change the same way too. If reports coming from the F1 arena are to be believed, McLaren could be planning to part ways with Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo, who has won 8 Grand Prix triumphs for Formula One teams like Renault, Red Bull, and HRT, joined McLaren in 2021. After a rather disappointing run, indicated by reports, McLaren had their eyes set on the IndyCar driver Colton Herta, and they're considering him the ideal choice for driving the MCL 36. Daniel Ricciardo appears to be somewhat lost at McLaren, and there continue to be stories that in 2024 or even earlier, Daniel will be replaced by Colton Herta. Herta is an American who McLaren manager Zak Brown believes could open the doors of Formula One to corporate America. While it's actually not clear yet whether Herta has everything required to become an F1 star, he appears to have the necessary speed. Ricciardo had a fairly forgettable outing in the 2022 World Championships, finishing 14th in Bahrain, not qualifying in Saudi Arabia, and finishing 6th in Melbourne and 18th in Imola. Right now, he's the 12th driver in the driver's standings, having missed out on picking up points at each and every race except the Australian GP. To add to his hopelessness, Ricciardo crashed with Carlos Sainz at Imola, which finished his race at turn 1 itself. The Australian figured out how to return to the race, yet he could only end up with an 18th spot finish. After the race, Daniel even went to apologize to Carlos Sainz personally. Ricciardo is presently into his second season with McLaren after changing from Renault toward the early 2021. His most memorable year saw him being beaten by a much younger teammate in Lando Norris, while also securing the team's first win since around 2013. In the meantime, the American driver Colton Herta is scheduled to test McLaren's all-new MCL 35 this year, according to his arrangement with McLaren. McLaren CEO Zak Brown has certified there's a plan set ready for testing the vehicle. Indeed, we presently got a setup introduced for Colton that depends on McLaren Group head Andreas Seidel to impart that, apparently when he's prepared to convey it. Yet indeed, we have an arrangement, Brown was quoted saying. However, despite the ever-growing rumors, Zak Brown assured everyone that McLaren would stick with Ricciardo at least until the end of 2023. Zak Brown earlier said that he would sit down for talks with Daniel Ricciardo later this year to discuss the Australian's long-term future with the team. When asked if talks over Ricciardo's long-term future would soon be stalled, Brown said, "We have yet another year together. Right now, we don't have a seat available. Lando is under a very long-term contract, so that seat's done. Daniel, we have another couple of years with him." According to Brown, the previous Red Bull driver had performed much better this season. Ricciardo's troublesome 2021 season is behind him, and Brown says the 8-time winner is currently once again at the highest point of his game. His race days have been very strong, and he's vastly improved in qualifying. Listening to him recently with the team, you can't say if he's 10 out of 10 on top of the car. However, he has an extraordinary relationship with Lando, and he knows the team well. It was extraordinary that he had the option to return to Australia without precedent for several years and re-energize the batteries and see the family. So we're truly glad to see Daniel at the top of his game. However, Brown seemed to neglect the fact that Ricciardo hasn't been able to obtain 3 points in 3 out of 6 races so far in 2022. And with his current contract set to end towards the end of the 2023 season, McLaren will be quick to assess Ricciardo's position in the team. McLaren boasts a trio of new and anticipated drivers from the Americas, and establishing a fan base on the continent is critical to McLaren's brand. If rumors are true, then Ricciardo might be feeling the heat to perform or risk losing his seat. The Papaya crew offered Aero McLaren SP's Pato Award an excursion toward the end of last year in Abu Dhabi, while individual IndyCar star Colton Herta has also been selected into the group's 2022 test program that will utilize last year's MCL 35M under F1's testing of previous cars' provision. McLaren has also signed a long-term deal with 14-year-old junior driver Ugo Chaku, who presently competes with Carlin in British F4. We do like to think long out into the future, hence why we're doing some testing with Pato. We're going to do some testing with Colton. We've got Ugo in Formula 4 who put on pole in his first race. I don't think he can ever plan too early, but there's no rush. While the McLaren boss might be content with Ricciardo's performance, it's also true that the driver trails partner Lando Norris by 28 points in F1's driver's standings right now. Ricciardo has only been able to score just a single top 10 finish in the 6 races so far this season. Even at the race in Imola, a mix-up and altercation with Ferrari's Carlos Sainz on the initial lap of the race put the Aussie out of conflict. In wet conditions, the pair found themselves driving toe-to-toe coming out of the very first turn of the race. As both cars entered the Tamburello chicane, the Ferrari got tagged despite appearing to leave enough space for the McLaren on the inside. The contact forced Sainz onto the gravel and ultimately ended his race. Ricciardo later apologized to Sainz about the whole incident, but even Sainz' halt couldn't even be beneficial for Ricciardo, who could only finish 18th. Presently, Ricciardo's contracted to McLaren for the rest of 2023, but the Woking-based outfit might consider replacing him, anticipating the future. The rather sophisticated driving style demands of the McLaren MCL 35M have been exposed during the 2021 and 2022 Formula 1 season. While Lando Norris has been able to deliver on a regular basis, the same can't be said about Daniel Ricciardo. Norris and his previous McLaren colleague, Carlos Sainz, also found the vehicle a bit tricky to drive, but finally adjusted well. Still over his initial 11 races as a McLaren driver, Ricciardo has been baffled by trying to adapt to a rather counterintuitive driving style of the car, which he described as peculiar. According to Ricciardo, he realized straight away that the MCL 35M was a different beast, said Ricciardo of the McLaren Mercedes MCL 35M. I'd lie if I said that Renault was definitely not different to Red Bull, so they're all unique. However, there are surely a few things where this vehicle is somewhat more peculiar than others. That's the riddle that I'm actually trying to solve, but each car will react and respond differently. Usually, anyone would expect a driver of Ricciardo's caliber to get on top of another car after 6 races. Earlier, he felt that the process would be completed in that time, but later admitted that his problems might be a reality rather than a temporary problem. McLaren's executive director of racing, Andrea Stella, says that the major issue in regards to adapting to the new vehicle might be due to Ricciardo's driving style. Stella says Ricciardo's driving style is at the opposite end. Stella also agreed, however, that the car in fact requires more adaptation than others. It's no secret that the MCL is good in high-speed corners, but not the best car when you have to roll at speed in mid-corner. Stella said that McLaren is attempting to adjust to some of the characteristics that make the car somewhat more sensitive to driving. Aerodynamic efficiency is the most important thing to deliver a race car, and McLaren will have to look into that aspect. Considering what Stella says regarding high-speed execution, Silverstone in July 2021 was a strong performance in contrast to Norris, despite the fact that he somewhat struggled for race pace. Ricciardo's challenge is that he jumps at the chance to carry speed into the corner by slowing down somewhat earlier and rolling the speed into the corner. The McLaren has a front-end shortcoming that's managed by slowing down later, but still remains quite a problem. Ricciardo has frequently tried to do this, slowing down sooner than Norris and winding up with the vehicle under-rotated. He's a driver who likes to move the speed in the corner, not necessarily go after the slowing down, even if the car requires him to. Now, while there aren't any doubts at Ricciardo's potential, seeing his earlier wins with Renault and Red Bull, he'll definitely have to prove it to the McLaren management. He has still a year before his contract expires, and if he delivers some exhilarating performances in the ongoing season, he'll most likely be able to retain his place with McLaren. On the other hand, McLaren's growing team of new drivers on the block will continuously challenge Ricciardo for a spot. It's time to finally decide on it. If you liked the information and found it interesting, press the like button. Also, tap and share to share this video with your F1 enthusiast friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more informative videos, and we'll be back quickly. Take care.